There are many stories sandwiched between chapters 15 and 22. I'll call this the fulfillment gap that divide between has not God said and not yet. Let me name a few things that we can learn before we address the imagination imperative. It's never too late. You are never too old. Things are never too bad to imagine. Even after we imagine, time may not be your ally. Life goes on. Mistakes will be made. Promises delayed. But here's the best part. God will always move.
Amen.
Imagine. After all, we are talking about imaginations. So imagine yourself under the desert sky. You are a desert dweller. You continuously watch the heavens. Nightly viewed literally millions of stars. And you've seen these same stars figuratively millions of times. Brown says, I'm brown. Imagination emerges when the literal and figurative converge. One more metaphor for us imagined desert dwellers. God uses sand. In the desert, there is sand everywhere. It is under their feet, between their toes, in their hair, on their skin. On windy days, this sand would blow in their mouths, in their eyes, even get in their food. They couldn't get rid of it. Sand was everywhere. Abram, such will be your imagination lineage. Your offspring will be everywhere, a blessing and bothersome. Families can be like that. Your lineage will be in, around, and through everything, wanted and unwanted, useful and useless, like sand. Imagine the possibilities. And let me tell you why imagination is so important. Our God-imaged imagination may be all we have for quite some time. And when we are called upon to explain what we have imagined, it may prove difficult at best. Imagine Abram at the first rest stop, a watering hole. And because water was scarce, people gathered from different places with different stories for different reasons, but needed refreshment. Abram's first stop may have been at the local McDonald's, Burger King, Subway. But one thing is without question and will never change: fast food is not fast. So while they waited on their not-so-fast food, I believe people shared their stories when they came together. And it may have gone something like this: young man, you seem to be on a mission of some sort. Where are you going all by yourself? It's tricky to explain to others that the one who called you out said to you, the starry sky and the sandy ground cannot contain what I'm about to give you. Ask Joseph. Get this too. Abram is not the only person the one talks to or will talk to. Job 32:8 says, there is a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty giveth it understanding. I don't know what kind of voice the one will use when inspiration sparks imagination in you. Still small, earth-shaking, inflection-laden, confiding friend, comforting confidant, powerful preacher, talented teacher. But inspiration will come from the one. Amen. I want you to dream out of this world, the stars. And in this world, the sand. Converge the literal and the figurative. One needed caution. When you dream and you imagine, do so inside the context of foundational truths. We are free to imagine and use that God-given imagination to create, even dangerously. But always remember our sure foundation. In a sermon, Ravi Zacharias tells the story of visiting the Wexner Center of Fine Arts on the campus of Ohio State University. Ravi says that the postmodern structure didn't make sense to him. There were walkways that led to nowhere, pillars that didn't hold up anything. It looked incomplete, dangerously unfinished. Ravi recalls leaning over and telling a friend, "I bet you the foundation doesn't look like that." Superstructures may change. They are ripe for experimentation. What I like, you may not like. Worship styles may differ drastically, but what undergirds us all must never change. Psalms 11:1 says, "If the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do?" We must imagine, even dangerously so, but never without proper foundation. And what is that foundation? Christ died. Christ rose. Christ will come again. Can I get a witness? One last thing I mentioned about the gap between Genesis 15 and Genesis 22. Never forget that we must never imagine God out of our God-inspired dreams. Let me say that another way. Whatever we do for God, we will always need God to do. We mess up more than ourselves when we try to do God stuff by ourselves. Does anybody know somebody named Ishmael? But let me give you my own story. I have done literally hundreds of wedding ceremonies. So many that I felt like I could do them without thinking. I knew them like the back of my hand, or maybe even without God. I would stop by the rehearsals and say, "There's really no way you can mess up a celebration." So confident I was in my ability to perform this task. I believed that until a wedding day last Veterans Day. I was so confident in my abilities. During the ceremony, I called the co-officiant the name of the groom 4 times. Darryl, it was so bad that when I was ready to pronounce them, one of the bridesmaids said, "His name is Charles." At one time during the ceremony, my mic that was clipped to my belt, it fell off. And so through my robe, I'm holding the contraption. I have their rings in my hand. And I'm trying to give them their rings while keeping the mic from falling on the floor. It was the worst. It was one of the worst days of my life and one of the worst weddings I have ever performed. I leave you with this. Never do God things without including God. Never forget that the gifts, the talents that you have and housed are not yours. They are ours, given to you to give to us by God. Dream to high heaven. Imagine to the low sands, but never, ever without God. Please stand for the prayer.